Hey, Ghost Machine fans, this one's for you.
Welcome to the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast, episode 78. One could say that today has been a long time coming. Not only are we celebrating the return of Ghost Machine's beloved science fiction universe, Rook Exodus, but we're welcoming a superstar Ghost Machine creator for the very first time. That's right. Rook Exodus number 7 has hit the shelves, and we have a very special guest with us today to talk about it. I am Snoggle, also known as Becky, and as always, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Nick. Nick, would you like to tell us a bit about our esteemed guest?
It would be my pleasure. Known for his work as an incredibly detailed penciler and inker, this artist is responsible for such works as Batman, Batman Eternal, Detective Comics, Justice League Darkseid War with Geoff Johns, and the now iconic Batman 3 Jokers, also with Geoff Johns. In 2023, Jason joined a cadre of other superstar creators at New York Comic Con that announced the formation of their cooperative media company, Ghost Machine. Since then, he's been the penciler and inker on fan favorite series Rook Exodus. Jason, it is amazing to have you on the show today. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Thanks for having me. Like you said, a long time coming, but very happy to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. You've been one of the most supportive creators for us since the very beginning, and reposting our stuff and commenting our stuff. We really, really appreciate that. And I guess our schedules never lined up because your art is so detailed. You must just have to lock yourself in a room and not talk to anybody for days to get work done.
Yeah, it honestly feels like that. And I'm juggling. I got 3 kids, my wife, and kids are all involved now in different sports and all kinds of things. And so my weekends is a lot of hockey, a lot of traveling to the arena for my kids. They got hockey. I play hockey and try to keep active and take care of myself as well. And so there's all these different things that kind of are there in your life. And I wasn't very good at balancing all of that years ago. It was when I was working at DC, it was like 7 days a week. You woke up, I was starting to work at like 6 a.m. and I wouldn't stop sometimes until 8 or 9 at night just to get deadlines done. Because, I liked drawing so much detail. It just took so much time. And so I had to put the hours in. But the problem with that is that it led to a lot of health problems. It led to, stresses in my life, and just, I realized like I needed to strike a better balance and find that place where I can do the work, but the work isn't my whole life, And that was one of the big reasons why when Geoff started mentioning create our own stuff, and then eventually when we were putting together Ghost Machine, I really saw it as an opportunity to step away from the monthly kind of grind at DC and find like a newfound freedom where I could be artistic, I could do my work, and I could put the time into it. But if I only drew 2 pages that week or 3 pages, then great, but then I still have time to do things with the kids after school and after work and be there for my wife and also take care of my health and exercise more and do all these sorts of things. And so that's really been the blessing of Ghost Machine has been able to trying to find that freedom and trying to find a good kind of way of working so that I find joy in my job instead of I was really feeling like for a lot of years there at DC that I was trapped. I was trapped and I wasn't happy and I didn't enjoy it. And then you'd get projects like 3 Jokers where it's like we just took our time and did it. And I was like, this is great. Like, this is how I wish it always was, And that's kind of where we're at now with Rook and the books and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm really happy with where we're at, and I'm really happy with the fan response. I'm I'm just seeing you take up like like a cheerleading, helping cheer us on and help connect the fans and the readers. This is something new. And so you were one of the first ones that really embraced the lore and the books and the characters, and you're talking about it, and you're bringing in these new readers who are discovering our books, and they can get in there and they can hear some thoughts about the books that are coming out, every month or every week or whatever. And it's just been really special to see, and it's been a lot of hard work, but it's special to see how everything's kind of falling together, and seeing the readership embracing the different books and the projects that we're doing. So yeah.
And they are coming together. It's the type of thing that I would think you can really even see the momentum kicking in as more and more of these trades come out. The trade for Rook Exodus Volume 1 is out. The deluxe hardcover, we got to see a special preview of that, man. And oh my goodness, it's coming out later this year at the end of October in direct market, 2 weeks later, everywhere else after that. It's got cover galleries. It's got so the character design layouts. Oh man. Whoo, those are sweet. And there's also an interview with you about it. So I mean, fans are I don't know. There's been other deluxe hardcovers that people have really enjoyed, but I could see people swooping that up and you having to do a second printing of your deluxe hardcover because it's like, because your art is so exceptional. People, it can just be, for many people, it's an art book. Not to say that the plot isn't fantastic, but the deluxe hardcover format, you know what I mean? So are you excited about that? And does that also inject a different fan base into Ghost Machine? Because I read it all, but there's a lot of people that read trades, and there's a lot of people that just read issues.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the deluxe hardcover. I knew right from the beginning I wanted to do something a little more special. I had all this design stuff and concept art that I'd been doing for a long time, and there's even stuff I held back because it's stuff I kind of want to keep for down the road. But when we were talking about it, I was like, I really would love to have a gallery at the back and really give little snippets about my thoughts on this and that, and how I did put a lot of thought into all of these things and making sure it all flows, and I make it feel like I'm creating an actual world that's been thought out. And you're right. I've actually seen quite a lot of people comment with, yeah, I haven't picked up any of the issues. I'm waiting for that deluxe hardcover. I haven't read the book, but I know I'm going to get that. They even skip the trade. They want that deluxe hardcover. And so it's like, yeah, it's cool. Like the thing I'm learning as we're going through this is that, like, I used to just be on the artist side of things. So you only really saw a little sneak into the world of publishing. But now that I'm a co-owner of the company and I'm in meetings and discussing this kind of stuff, you start to realize that there are all these strategies and there's different readership. Like people, like you said, like people enjoy, they want to read it as a full trade, like a graphic novel. And so they're not interested in buying the single issues, or they might buy the trade, but then they'll go and hunt the single issues after if they really like it. Right. You also come to realize, like the singles and the floppies that are on the shelves, they're really there for a short period of time. They're only ordered to a specific number, and then that's it. And then once they're gone, the only way to really find them is on eBay and whatnot. But the trades stay alive forever, and as long as they sell, they'll keep reprinting them. And those are the things that can really build up your company, because as you build out a library of trades, when you go to the store, you go to a bookstore, you go on Amazon or wherever, comic book shop, and you have this line of all these Ghost Machine books sitting in the image section. Now all of a sudden it's like, wow, there's a whole, I may like this, I may want this book too. I might want to check out Redcoat or Rockefellers. And as that library gets bigger and bigger over time, we've always seen this as a long-term investment. It's not a short-term thing. It's like in year 4, when we have 4 Rook trades out, or year 5, that's when I feel we're really going to start hitting an even different audience, because people will be like, hey, wait a minute, these guys are serious. They've done 4 or 5 trades of this book. I want to get in on it. I want to read this thing. And as word of mouth spreads, people will start coming in to read those books. I think that there's also a lot of hesitation when creators leave DC and Marvel to do creator-owned stuff, because I'd say 80% of the time they'll do 6 issues and then they go right back to Marvel or they go right back to DC.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said in my mind, like I've Jeff and I are like, we're sticking with this thing, because it's like, if we abandoned it now, we would miss out on where this thing could actually go. And I feel there's so much potential with this book and the ideas and the stories. It could potentially outlive us if we keep moving. But it's a gamble, and it's a bit of a sacrifice too. Like, I could go to DC and I could draw Batman and I could sell tons of Batman original art and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, it might be a little bit of an easier time, but this is going to be more rewarding, I believe, in the end. It's going to be way more rewarding to build a legacy on something that you yourself had a hand in creating. And that's special.
Well, and you can feel that your passion for it is organic, and that's why it's working for you.
But you also, like, you're creating something, which I'm so happy for you personally, being able to do something that's just yours. But you're also getting to have balance that is even, I don't do comics, but I have one kid and he only does like 2 or 3 sports, and we're juggling, work, ghost machine, kid. You've got 3. And I was just aghast. I'm like, good for you and your wife, but you'll get to have something that's a legacy that's just yours. And in the meantime of doing it, getting to spend like real time with your family, like, that's a treasure.
And I would also say that Rook really is something I'm doing for my kids in multiple ways. Number one, it's something that I own, so one day I can pass that on to them. Number two, my kids, my oldest is 10, and he was asking me, Dad, can I read some of your work? And the problem is, a lot of the Batman stuff I did was a little too violent or a little too mature. And it's like, yeah, I couldn't, but Rook was kind of created with the mindset of like, I would love it. I think you could hand Rook to a 12-year-old, 10, 12-year-old, and they could read it and they'd be fine. You could also read it as an adult and it'll be fine. Like, it's got a little bit of fighting, a little bit of violence. The language is very clean. I'm a big stickler on no swearing. And so those are things that turn off parents from wanting their kids to read certain comics. So it's a balance, and you're trying to kind of ride that line. And I just try to keep remembering, like, okay, Star Wars had a little bit of guns and shooting and stuff like that. It's some scary stuff, but otherwise it was pretty clean, and you could enjoy it as an adult and you can enjoy it as a kid. And Rook is really something that I'm passionate about that, and I want my son and his friends at school to be able to pick up the book and read it and have fun with it and imagine themselves in this world. So Rook really is, I'm making it secretly for my kids. That's kind of what it's what I've always wanted to do, but it's also something that's like, my son's always like, when can I read the next issue? Like, he's angry that I haven't gone to the store to pick up issue 7 because he wants to read it. I'm like, well, I gotta, the store's like 40 minutes away. I gotta wait till I have time to drive to go there to get the comics and whatnot. So, but yeah, that's another part of why I wanted to do this was, I felt strongly about that and wanted to do something for my family, and dedicated to them.
Ironically, Rook Exodus has been a family affair for us as well, too, because one of the videos we made with the cosplay helmet was with our son, and she was holding the camera. So cool. You're getting it through to our family, too, man. So dig it.
Cool.
Yeah. In his parents' backyard, too.
Yeah.
So it was the whole family.
Everybody.
Was a little bit involved.
That was a while ago. Yeah. But hey, let's talk about Rook Exodus 7 that just came out. Everybody is so excited about this issue.
There is a lot of quiet and or wordless storytelling in Rook Exodus 7. What does the creative process look like for you and Jeff when there are many scenes without dialogue that still tells such a detailed story?
That's a great question. as an artist, you're kind of taught early on that you should be able to essentially pick up a comic book, and if there was no words on the page, you should kind of be able to figure out what's going on, right? Just from the visuals. Comic books are a visual medium, and I think sometimes writers, they forget some of that, and they rely so heavy on exposition and having to have characters talking all the time and things always, and they don't take a step back. Because Jeff has worked so much in film and has a background in that and kind of got a start in the film industry with Richard Donner, he understands the visual aspect of storytelling maybe better than most. And so he's not afraid to just write a sequence, have no talking or anything, and just let the artist go. Because really, we're still telling a story, and sometimes those quiet parts, those parts where there are no talking, are the things that can actually impact the most. Because the reader himself or herself is reading the story, and they are seeing it being played out in their mind. And the interesting thing about comic books is the reader actually is filling in the blanks between one panel to the next. Sometimes you don't realize it, but you are. Like, there's motion and there's things happening in your brain connecting panel 1 to panel 2, panel 3, and I love the quiet storytelling. We did some of that in the first issue of Rook as well. And as an artist, I find it just, it helps when you have a really well written script. Jeff writes a great script. I don't have to guess too much at what he wants. The hardest thing a lot of times when you're drawing a script is just figuring out where characters need to be in relation to each other, and then put them in that panel in a way that's exciting or visually interesting. And sometimes that's easier, sometimes that's hard, and sometimes you fail at that, sometimes you do a really good job. But Jeff lays it out pretty well, and I'm able to just read the script, I see it in my head, and I go with my gut feeling and just do it. But I love the fact that Jeff will just have those quiet sections where it's just action or characters moving or wandering through the world. Yeah, it's great, and it's also a way of building up tension. And there's all kinds of kind of subconscious things that are happening when you're reading a scene like that. Again, that opening sequence in issue 7 just makes for a really good fight scene and a good action scene, and you're kind of, well, who are these characters and what's going on here? And all that stuff will get answered as we go through the arc. But yeah, a lot of fun to work on those sections too. Because as a visual artist, it's almost like you're doing like storyboards. You're trying to like tell a story just through the visuals, and it makes you kind of rise to the occasion. You can't rely on words to get something across. You have to use body language of the characters and little storytelling tricks to make it all come together. But yeah, I love that opening sequence, and I'm always happy to do those kinds of quiet sequences every once in a while.
I felt like the opening pages of 7 was, for me, one, so well done, and it almost drew you back in, because we left off 6 and then we started, I'm like, oh, we're in a snowy place, or there's fighting, and it just again brings up all these questions that we want to know. Like, I'm like, why is his blood green? Who is this person fighting this person? Like, and just draws you straight back in without even seeing characters we know. Like, so well done. I loved how most of it was a winter scene and you get those pops of red. A very good job. I think it draws you back in, so to speak. Yeah. So,
well, you mentioned the green, like all the dogs have like this.
The dogs too. The dogs too.
Mm-hmm. They have like this phosphorescent spit. Well, that is a little callback to one of my favorite Sherlock Holmes stories, The Hound of the Baskerville.
Oh,
and in the Hounds of the Baskerville, the dog has like a phosphorescent like green paint that they splatter on it, and it makes it look like a ghost, right? Yeah. And so when this character was called Bloodhound, that was one of the first things that came to my mind. And I was like, it would be cool if it's not really explained, but it's just they're on an alien planet, so maybe some of the stuff has gone a little mutated or whatever. But I just thought
Sure.
it's an interesting visual thing, and it's a little callback to the Hound of the Baskerville with this phosphorescent green drool. So that's where that little visual element comes from, and I don't really know if it'll be ever explained, but it's just something. It was a visual thing that I liked because that's one of my favorite stories, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to call back to that.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
I thought perhaps since it may or may not ever be explained, that maybe the green, since he's got it too, Bloodhound has it and his dogs have it, his wild dogs have it, that maybe it has something to do with when one is unable to control instinct influence, it does something to your physiology that causes that, as well as, your, those who you're a warden of. I don't know. I noticed that too. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. Yeah, maybe that'll be the explanation. I'll use that somewhere else, and then I'll be like, yeah, that's what it was.
There you go. Bam!
For sure.
Gotcha. So
I like that.
When you're doing this incredible battle scene with very little dialogue, how much does Jeff say? Like we're talking several pages, man, of awesome battle before Stag ends up looking over that peak and the snow comes, right? So is it like a few sentences, or is every single panel on here something that Jeff wrote and you interpreted, or like how much open? Because when we spoke with Yvonne, he was the same way as you. He basically said that Jeff can really give you a lot of creative license and freedom. So was it just, hey, there's going to be a fight between these two wardens, this is what disrupts it, this is what happens, and then you go? Or where does that lie?
Jeff actually lays it out pretty tight.
Oh, yeah.
Like, panel 1, page 7, and he'll say, Bloodhound attacks Stag, throwing him to the ground. And then, like he'll kind of, he does go through, and I like that because it literally takes a lot of the work off my plate because I can, but the interesting thing is Jeff always just kind of says like, this is kind of a guideline. Like if you want to change things, if you like, and I do that. Sometimes I'm going through and laying out a page and I feel like I need another panel in here I want to show this or transition this or whatever. And I'll make changes and I'll change like the big panel with Stag, like standing there on page 4 was originally like in the script. The script actually describes the inset panel, which is Stag jumping up in the air, coming down towards Bloodhound. And I did that. I drew something and I went, it just doesn't feel right. I want like just a cool shot of the character. So we just get a really good look at this character looking cool, squared up and, sword out, snow falling. And so that actually is something I changed. And then I added a small inset panel on the bottom where Stag's jumping and you see his kind of silhouette in the moon as he's coming down. So sometimes I just do like I get like I just feel it. I feel it a little differently, and so I'll do it. I'll try it. I'll try it a different way. One of the things I don't know if it's good or bad, but it drives my wife nuts. She like I will stress about certain pages because I just a lot of it has to feel right. I can't leave a book or I can't leave a page until I feel that it's right. And sometimes you have to just force yourself to move on to something else. You're just not getting it. But sometimes like the big splash page in issue 1 of Rook, where it's like you see him standing there up on the hill cliff with the birds all around. It's like our first good look of him. I must have drawn that thing 25, 30 times, different poses, because I couldn't get it. And then finally I kind of just went, okay, I'm just going to do what I feel it should be, kind of just a simple character looking cool. And then I went, oh, that feels right. And I just went, okay, I'm done. And I handed off to Brad and I let him color it. But there was even another version that was already fully colored, but I didn't like it. But it drives my wife nuts because I'll stress about this stuff for years and years and years. But in my mind, if it doesn't feel right, I can't leave it. and I can't move on from it because it'll bother me forever. You kind of learn to trust your instincts as an artist and your gut. I mean, David Finch, who was my mentor, we talked a lot about the fact that you want your artwork to be visceral, and you want people to be able to, it doesn't have to be the greatest drawn piece of art ever, but when somebody looks at it, they should feel what you're trying to get across. Like if it's a cool character, you want them to feel it when they turn that page and see that splash. Even if the drawing doesn't look perfect or it looks a little off or wonky or whatever, but it has to have a visceral feel. And sometimes it takes a long time to capture that. Some guys are really good at it and they do it like one take and they're good. With me, I feel like I got to work it and find that spot. And sometimes that means I lose a lot of time because I'm working on one thing for weeks and weeks. But in the end, that's something that all comes together is you got to feel it and I can't leave it until I've felt like I've done, the image has come out and it's how it's supposed to be. And Jeff drives Jeff nuts too, because he's like, it looks fine. Like what you've drawn looks great. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's awful. The end of the world. I got to come back to it and I'll redo it. And then I go, yeah, now I feel good, about it.
Well, that would, I imagine, be why in a deadline fraught environment like the Big Two, comic book readers occasionally have those pages where you can like see stuff was like kind of janky or not like done well or rushed, and it just is kind of accepted because it's just a comic book, and because of what you do and all of the other creators as well, because what you're talking about, in my opinion, resonates through everybody in Ghost Machine. It's when somebody like, I've literally handed a Ghost Machine quote unquote comic book, an issue, to a person that doesn't read comic books, and they'll open it and be like, oh, well, this isn't a comic book. This is sweet. It like literally heard those words. This isn't a comic book. This is sweet. Because the perception is that the caliber of what you're delivering isn't a comic book. And it isn't a typical comic book. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. So, and that's, I think, why it's getting through to a lot of new readers too.
Yeah. The comic books have always had that artists have always had to find that balance between quality and quantity, because you're expected to do, when you're on a monthly book at DC, you're expected to pump that book out as fast as you can, and you're cutting corners, you're finding little tricks to get yourself through. But the one thing I've always noticed is that those big artists and the guys that really have made names for themselves, they were able to kind of find a good balance of that, but they also eventually at some point just decided, okay, I'm just going to focus more on quality over quantity of books. And they just did really good jobs on the things they were given. And those books went on to become staples because they had such beautiful artwork and all this kind of thing. And the people who kind of rush through their work often get kind of forgotten when it comes to comic books. Mm-hmm. But again, it's like that. It's also a skill to get that visceral feeling through that somebody reads it and they feel it. Like Mike Mignola's work is very simplistic compared to what I do, but he nails it. Like he gets the feeling of every panel. Like when you're reading Hellboy, like you could feel it. And like he nails it every time. Tim Sale was like that too. Different art style, but it really, like, you just got it, and you could read it and you could really like feel what he was trying to get through with his artwork. And so, but yeah, I want Rook to be something that I'm proud of and happy with, and it means it takes a little bit more time. And again, I'm looking at the long game and not the short game, to get these books out.
In the end, more people will probably read them because they're higher quality as a result. We've talked before, but actually we had a listener mail come in asking us if we were going to be wardens, what wardens we would be. And so there's a warden that, Becky wants to ask you about. And then, we have a question. We have a question for you. I won't let you do it because it was your idea.
Well, I can't remember what your warden was,
Me?
Nick.
Mine wasn't as exciting. Yours is way more
yours
exciting.
was lame.
Yeah.
I said clearly, I was like, if you could be the warden of one race, type of animal. I said orca because they're one of the only matriarch like systems in nature. There's a couple like lions, orcas, and they're just sweet. So I feel like, Nick, you said sloth or something.
No, I said like a panda or a koala because I thought it would be funny that you would have to have some wardens like that or not combative type of people because there are other animals that would like have purposes. But anyway, that's not the question. So the question
is, and this is a silly one, but if you could be the warden of any animal, what would your warden be?
Hockey warden.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it would be Rook. I love crows, and I've learned so much about birds and crows and ravens and stuff just doing this series. That's kind of my avatar, and really the character is kind of me in a lot of ways. It's what I wish I could be sometimes. Even the whole fight and flight kind of thing is that whole storyline kind of came up like because that's kind of how I've always thought. It's like sometimes I'll say to Jeff like, man, all I want to do is just buy a cabin in the middle of the woods somewhere and disappear. And then we'll talk about it. And he's like, yeah, but if you do that, then you're not having an impact on people and your community and all this kind of stuff. And so this, some of those story elements came out of conversations that we had about, just running away from your problems versus facing them. Sort of like those main few characters that we hit right off the bat, Rook, Ursa, Direwolf, and Swine, were all sort of like, yeah, those are like my favorite kind of animals, and we wanted to focus on a lot of like North American animals too, right off the beginning. There's some space for some exploring, prehistoric animals or extinct animals. I think that would be kind of cool at some point.
Yes.
Because, you could do that, but I feel like that kind of stuff has to be worked in slowly because you don't want to jump the shark and just dive into that kind of stuff. But because it's science fiction, we could play with some of those things. The water wardens and all the water. I love aquatic animals. My father was a scuba diver. He taught scuba lessons. I have my scuba certification, and I've always felt a connection to. I live right near Lake Erie, and so spend a lot of time as kids fishing and out on boats and all this kind of stuff. And I love the water, and I love all the different species of animals. It's finding a way to bring that all into a storyline, and we do have an idea for a storyline, but it might not come for a little while. But there are some of those characters that we've discussed and would be really cool to tackle. I like the orca idea. That's a very Canadian thing with like the killer whales and stuff like that out in BC. And,
yep.
Yeah.
So like, there's that. And my son, like, he loves sharks and he's like, oh, sharks and, and all this kind of stuff. But, it's, there's one of the things that we've discovered is the sky's the limit. And I like how you kind of mentioned like with the panda and having like a character who's not like combat focused, you can play with some of that because I have a couple ideas I don't want to mention because I'm holding them on for a story, but I have a couple ideas where you take an animal that is like ridiculously weak, but you make like the most strong, cool, badass character out of them, like the total opposite of what you would think, and you could play with those things and play with those kind of concepts and kind of flip the stereotype of that animal, but a lot of times I find if you just like, you wouldn't want to do a tiger character and then have them not be a cool combative character because it's like they kind of want something like that out of them.
They're expecting it.
Yeah, some of those more obscure animals or things that you wouldn't ever choose to be a warden of. It's like some of those you could have a lot of fun kind of changing the stereotype of them. But I like the idea of like a sloth warden. That'd be kind of funny, and he's more of like a tactical kind of guy or like he doesn't like, he talks really slow and he's just lazy. I don't know. Like you could have a lot of fun with some of that stuff. But the other thing I was going to say too is that you got all these ideas, but you you have to you can't just pump them all into once. Like I've even found with this story arc that we're doing now, issue 7 to 12, we have quite a lot of characters, and I'm dealing with a lot of characters on every page. And I keep saying to Jeff, it's becoming like a Justice League team book, and that is so hard to draw. It takes hours more to draw than just one or two characters per page going on an adventure. And so overloading it with too many characters is can be a drawback too. And there's a time and a place to have those kinds of big epic stories with all kinds of characters. But I find a lot of the stuff I'm more attracted to is I want one or two characters on a journey, and it's about them connecting with each other and having an adventure with a villain, and so you don't want to bring in too many things. You want to build up the characters that you have, but it is fun to play with. Oh, they meet this character or this character, and we can maybe meet that character down the road in a different situation. So yeah, it's I love the suggestions because there's a lot of animals I don't think about, but it's like we have a list and we'll write them down and come up with a little idea and then off we go kind of thing. So yeah,
I think it's a cool universe you've created because like you said, there are so many different types of animals. And I wasn't even thinking about bugs until the end of 7, where I was like, no, that is the scariest warden, the spider,
Yeah, the bugs too. We have lots of ideas for insect wardens. Again, the problem is that me, naturally, I hate bugs. So I want to make them all villains. But it's like, yeah, you can't have them all be villains. It'd be interesting to take scary bugs and turn them on their head so they're actually a good guy, but there's a lot of symbolism with bugs too, and all these kinds of things that you can get into. The spider warden is very terrifying, and the next 2 or 3 issues is a lot of spiders and some really creepy stuff. This storyline kind of borders a little bit on like horror, but it's fun to play with that. That's the other thing with this series that Jeff and I have learned is that we can really tell any story we want to tell. Like we can tell a horror story that's more self-contained in one spot. We can tell big, grandiose epics that take place over many different locations. We could, if we wanted to, we could tell a mystery story or a detective style story. Like you can do that with this world. And that sometimes I think creators, they'll come up with an idea and they get through 6 issues and then they go, I don't know where this goes anymore because the concept was very kind of tight and small. But this concept is so big. And actually, Jeff and I had a really awesome conversation yesterday on the phone. I had to cut it short because my son had hockey practice and I had to leave. So we were getting him dressed while I'm on the phone talking. But we pretty much laid out the entire Rook Exodus saga from beginning to end, and we now know what the end is.
Ooh.
And it was really cool. And the one thing we said was, wow, all these different storylines that we just kind of threw out basic ideas, they're all very different from each other, but they build onto each other into this huge, epic, almost biblical style tale. And it has has a great ending. We have an awesome middle part that we want to eventually get to. Hopefully we'll be able to go through it all. It's going to take me a lot of years to draw it all if it's just me drawing it, but we're amazed at how much story we really have and what we could say with this book and where it could go. It could really be something really like epic. The definition of the word epic, it really could be that. Yeah, and but it's going to take time to get there, and a lot of baby steps along the way.
Epic, even potentially like other planets, or at least combat between Exodus and Earth, or like there's just like this is just the toe has been dipped in the pool barely, right? Proverbially, you could say.
Yeah, and that's a thing too. It's like the first arc was very big and we wanted to really show the world. The second arc is a little bit more character focused, and it's you're gonna see it. They're kind of it takes a lot of cues from like the original Alien movie where they're
Mm.
trapped in one area and you're trying to survive. But we're going to have some flashbacks and reveals about these characters. But again, it's a different kind of story. And then the kind of the idea we just discussed yesterday for the next arc is another big, epic, world traveling, end of the world scenario. But you got to kind of play with those. You can't always just have huge, everything's going to blow up. You got to have smaller kind of things that allow you to get deep in with these characters and grow them. And then that earns you the chance to then do the next big thing where you're putting these characters in a different situation and the whole planet into mortal danger and you're going to the next epic and new villains. All like you kind of have to. Jeff did this with Green Lantern, and he understands how to build out a huge epic story by having some chapters that are more character focused and smaller. Not that big and important things won't happen, because they will, but it's more character driven, smaller. And then you go to the next thing where it's like, oh, we're going to have all these big fights and all this cool stuff. And then you might do another story that's a little more smaller. So it's all about building that slowly. And again, long game, looking at the long game and where it could all go and where you want to take it. That's fun. It's really something where every day I'm coming up with new ideas and I'll write them down. And then when we have these pitch meetings, we just throw out ideas and we get jazzed about each other's ideas. And that builds on like the next story, you know.
Oh, nice.
We'll have like a story Zoom. And so we'll get on there and we'll be like, okay, because right now we're thinking like, okay, well, what's going to come after? What's the next story arc? So we started devising that because you want to start putting little tidbits of that in this story arc in the last few issues so that it starts to lead the viewer on that, prepare them for that next adventure, right? And so that's kind of how we do it. And Jeff is an awesome collaborator. He wants to talk to you. He wants to hear my ideas, and he wants to see what gets me excited, because if he gets me excited, then he gets excited about the idea, right? And so it's just great. It's awesome to collaborate with a creator like that. It changes the game for you as an artist, and it really makes you buy into it all, and you emotionally connect with it. So then you want to do your best work, and put that out there. So it's a great strategy. A lot of writers don't do that in comics. They just give you the script, and then you're just a cog kind of doing their script. But Jeff, he wants to talk about it, and he wants to hear my ideas. And sometimes I'll say, I don't know if I feel that. And so then I'll go, okay, well, what about this? And then we move on like together through that as we're doing the story. Most of the stuff that I've worked on for long-term kind of storytelling has been with Jeff. And the one thing with Jeff is he always kind of knows where he's going. He always knows the ending of like your story arc, but he also knows kind of where what the ending might be overall. Like with Three Jokers, we knew what the ending was, and then you kind of work backwards from that. And same with this, like we knew how issue 6 would kind of end, and so then we kind of worked backwards. And now with this, we know where like the very, very, very ending is, but we also know we have like some kind of broken up the story into different chapters, and we kind of know where we want to get to. It's like we want to get to this spot because would be really cool and it would change the world. And then we want to get to this spot after that, and that will be really cool because it'll allow us to do this. And then we have a big, big epic ending that we know we want to get to eventually. And so I think you need to know your ending. You need to know it. And Jeff's always really good at the cliffhanger too, at the end of an issue. He knows how to end each issue. So you want to have endings. And the one thing that excites me about this too is, it's kind of weird to be talking about the ending of a series when we just kind of started it.
Right.
But the one thing that really attracts me to things like, I've been reading a lot more like Japanese manga, and there are definitive endings to their books. Like you read Akira and there is an ending.
Oh, yeah.
There's an actual ending to the story. And it doesn't just keep going on and on and on and on forever like Batman and Superman and stuff. And I think that having a definitive ending to a story is awesome. Like every story needs a beginning, middle, and an end. And it drives you towards that, and it gives you a goal to shoot for thematically and emotionally. again, I joke, I would say to my wife, it's going to take me the rest of my career to get there at this pace. But, I think it's a cool, actually, my son then spoke up and said, "Hey dad, maybe by that time I'll be able to draw those issues." I was like, "Yeah, maybe, bud." That would be pretty cool.
Hey.
Hand it off to you one day. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun this is our thing and we've created it and we can do the story how we want to do it. I like the idea of having definitive kind of endings to a story, and you say what you're going to say, and it's something that people can enjoy for a long time after as well.
All right. So what are the chances of some World of Rook Exodus action figures or even trading cards? Let me tell you, the fans would go bananas. Direct quote from Nick Wilson.
I think that there's a chance of that for sure. But like I've said to a lot of people who've asked about that, I think we have to earn that. You have to build an audience. You have to build a customer base that's going to support that kind of thing. And it also takes a lot of time, especially with action figures and stuff. It takes forever. Like you start working on that like two years in advance, to plan that all out. But there are things coming, maybe not necessarily Rook connected, but there are some things Ghost Machine connected. But I've often just said it's not something we can rush. We have to earn it with the fan base. We have to earn action figures and statues and all that kind of thing. We gotta get that. And again, I kind of see it as like that's like year 4 or 5. We will have built up an audience that can now start to support doing a lot of extra stuff. The trading card stuff, I would love to do that. That's something you can do. That's a lot easier, and that's within grasp. You can do that. You could set that up with print shops and whatnot. But I haven't really looked into that, but that could be something we could do in the near future as like exclusives. Or hey, if you buy this issue, you get them. We did that with 3 Jokers. If you bought the issue, you got like a pack of trading cards or something like that. That is something doable. I want to be able to earn getting action figures and merchandising and all that kind of stuff. And without sounding too prideful, I'm confident that we will get there. It just takes that time. It just takes time to build an audience. And I believe we will have that audience down the road.
I agree. I feel like right now we could probably, the 3 of us, come up with some really sweet statues. Even like one of Rook with like crows.
Oh yeah.
There's all kinds of cool stuff. But again, it's like you gotta. I mean, I worked with Prime One Studios doing a bunch of different DC statues, and some of them, like you do a design and you get all the way through with a character that was a little bit more like obscure, and then the pre-orders didn't come through, so then it wouldn't be worth it for them to make it, so I've learned it's like just because you make something and you get it almost to the end doesn't mean you have that audience to buy it. So you do have to make money off of it, and you want to be able to produce it. It's thousands and millions of dollars to make these things, and so again, I think we'll get there, but it's just going to take some time.
You'll have our support every step of the way, no matter how long it takes.
Sure.
So we usually ask our guests about their personal life and what they do for fun, but it sounds like you've got hockey and outdoor stuff and probably whatever the heck those 3 kids do, yay? As they say.
Yeah. Right now, because it's the fall. All the hockey season has kicked in. My youngest, he's just learning how to skate now, and so a lot of time is there. My daughter takes dance class, so we're doing that with her too. I became very, very aware of my physical health a few years ago. I was actually another reason why moving to Ghost Machine was because I had pretty much destroyed my body, my shoulder, my back from working so much. I had a lot of nerve pain in my hand. I could hardly draw. This was at the end of like 3 Jokers. And so it was a wake up call. And a friend of mine who I play hockey with actually on Monday nights, he's a personal trainer and used to train a lot of NHL guys. And so he said, hey, let's get you back. Let's get you fit. and let's fix that arm, let's fix that back. And so that's become a big part of my life now too, is training, and I'm doing that. I really enjoy it, doing that multiple times a week. And I have to do that in order to keep my body going so I can do this job. Because you wouldn't think art is physically demanding, but it really is. And I've become very passionate about that as well, exercise and all this kind of stuff. So that's part of there. I enjoy playing video games with my kids, and going for walks with my wife, and watching movies and TV shows, and all kinds of stuff. And we try to be active and do things together. It's one thing about working from your house is that you never really stop working. There's always something you can do. And it takes a lot of discipline to do your job when it's the time to do it, but also it takes a lot of discipline to cut yourself off from it and go do something else, right? And that's a major pull. And the comic book industry for years, I feel, they know that, and they use that against artists to essentially always be working all the time. And you didn't get vacations. You couldn't, if you took a vacation, you might lose your job. They're going to give it to the next guy. That's part of the comic book industry. It's always this grind, and it's always, you got to keep going and do more and do more and do more. And I've been really happy with Ghost Machine that I can kind of pull back from that lifestyle, find a good groove. And what it means is, it means that the books aren't going to come out monthly. And there will be delays between books because stuff happens in life, or we decide, hey, we're going to go take a vacation. Let's go do it. Or there's a lot of stuff with the kids going on, and that's important in my life. I'm going to do that. And so that means that the books take a while to put out. But again, it's about the long game. It's not about the short term. It's not about getting 12 issues out a year. I'm going to do 6 issues a year. I could, on good years, maybe I'll get 7 out. But they're going to come out when they're ready. And I'm kind of done with, killing myself to try and get the work out. Because one thing I've seen is between Rook 6 and 7, like a year went by, and guess what? Our sales on Rook 7 were way higher than issue 6. So it didn't hurt us to be gone for so long, because the quality is there, the passion is there, people like the idea, and I believe that we will build up that audience over a long period of time. And we also have plans for things to help fill in those gaps, so that I can be working and other things can be coming out, expanding the world of Rook.
Nice.
And Exodus. But those are kind of plans that are in the early stages right now. But it was something I asked for. I was like, I want something. Can we come up with something where we can build this world out so it's not just me, but I want to still tackle, I'm the main story, but let's do some side stuff. And so we're kind of trying to figure that out, because we feel that would be a positive, and keep the book alive while I'm working on the next part. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of, I'm actually kind of a pretty boring person, I feel, and I'm just enjoying my life being a dad, and being involved with the kids stuff, and trying to be a better husband for my wife every day, and then do the best I can with the time I'm given. I have so many hours a day I can work, and then I have to shut that off. And if I get far ahead, that's great. If I fall behind, okay, whatever. Next morning is a new day, and I'll try to tackle as much as I can, but there's things I have to do. And that's the main difference I feel in my life now than what it was working at DC. DC was everything, and I had to sacrifice everything for DC. This Ghost Machine is my work, and I'm passionate about it, but my family and everything else is, I'm trying to put that first, and then do the best I can at the job that I'm doing,
We have asked every Ghost Machine creator what, Ghost Machine has done for them, what's different about Ghost Machine, and everybody's had all different answers. Yours is, it has made your quality of life and your families improve, which is awesome. So congrats on that. Obviously congrats on the success of the book. Congrats on the fact that 7 outsold 6. That's fantastic news. It means that if you're a Ghost Machine fan out there, you might have a chance on finding that one for 20 Gary Frank ratio cover that you should go poke around for at your local comic book shop. Which reminds me, I did want to say one more thing, Jason, before we wrap up, because you mentioned how you know a lot of people that are waiting for the hardcover, waiting for the trade, and then they'll quote unquote go hunting for the issues. If you don't want to have to hunt for the issues, if you don't want to have to go have an experience on eBay, well, the best thing for you to do is make sure that Rook Exodus and all the other Ghost Machine books that you know and love are on a pull list at your local comic book shop. So don't forget to do that.
Yeah, supporting the local shops is important. If you like a book, put it on your pull list and pick it up when you can pick it up and read it. Please read the books and get into them. We put so much work into them. I'm thankful for the fans and all the great support and the positivity, from people and just people enjoying the book and saying some really kind words about it all. It goes a long way and makes me want to continue doing this. Again, thanks for all the shops that support us, all the fans, you guys doing podcasts and other media. It's great. And I can't wait to see where things go as we keep building this out from, we're in year 2 into year 3 into year 4 into I'm really looking forward to seeing how the story arc of our company grows and the books that come out and the creators. And I think the sky's the limit. It's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of hard work going on behind the scenes on a lot of things, but I think it's all going to be worth it, in the end.
No doubt. Well, Jason Fabok, co-creator of Rook Exodus, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We enjoyed interrogating the heck out of you.
Awesome. I had a great time. We'll do it again. We will do it again. It won't be 2 years in between. We're going to do it again because if you got more questions, I'm good with that. So
yeah,
maybe we can come back at the end of maybe when issue like 11 or 12 comes out or something and do another, and we could go through the story arc and really pick it apart, figure it all out.
Oh, I would love that.
Awesome. That would be wonderful. I think, and the fans would absolutely love that. So thank you. Yeah. That's a great idea. Lock it in for sure. We're doing it.
Yeah.
All right. And if you'd like to check out all of our other content, you can do so by going to www.ghostmachinefans.com, where all of our socials are, as well as the wiki. We are still looking for contributors on that, by the way. We would love to have some new ones. And if you want to come chat with us on Discord, hop on into the Ghost Machine Comics Reddit or our Instagram, where the invite for Discord is. We'd love for you to come hang out and chat.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Ghost Machine Fans podcast, and we'll see you next time.